Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the issue that has caused a whirlwind of emotions and intense speculation among fans of ABC's General Hospital. At the heart of it all stands Willow, a woman at the center of a love triangle involving her ex-husband Michael and her new partner Drew. The story unfolds through heartbreak, betrayal, and unexpected twists that threaten to upend the carefully laid plans of those involved. Over the course of these events, Willow is forced to confront her conscience, make difficult decisions about her future, and accept that every action can bear consequences far beyond what she once imagined. Let us dive deep into the core of this narrative, recounting in great detail how Willow's romantic entanglement led her down a path lined with complications, secrets, and an explosive development that could change everything. In the early stages of Willow's relationship with Michael, they shared a sense of genuine connection, albeit a connection that wasn't free from hardship. Michael brought with him a commitment to family, a desire for stability, and a determination to provide a secure future for the people he loved. When Willow and Michael decided to marry, many believed it was a union built on mutual admiration, perhaps not the most fiery or passionate love story, but one founded on a respect that promised longevity. Indeed, Willow invested a considerable amount of energy in trying to make the marriage work. Although their union had its fair share of complications, some external, some internal, it nevertheless endured for a time, anchored by a shared goal of forging a supportive life for themselves and, in certain arcs, for the children under their care. However, beneath the surface, tensions existed that neither Willow nor Michael fully acknowledged. Willow, who had always been earnest in her affections, occasionally felt overshadowed by Michael's commitments and the burdens placed upon him by the legacy of his famous Port Charles family. Meanwhile, Michael's own focus was often split among various responsibilities, conflicts with other figures in town, persistent issues involving Sonny's complicated world, and the demands that come with being a Corinthos or a Quartermain by extension. The cracks in their marriage were subtle, but they were growing, leaving Willow increasingly conflicted about her place in Michael's life and uncertain about whether she was truly being heard. Enter Drew, a man whose presence in Willow's life began inconspicuously but expanded over time. From the outset, Drew exuded a calm and steadfast nature that contrasted sharply with the swirling drama often associated with Michael's world. Drew came into contact with Willow through overlapping friendships and alliances within Port Charles. The more Willow interacted with him, the more she found that he offered her an ease of communication that she had longed for. Drew was attentive, present, and unburdened by the labyrinth of complicated relationships that had come to define Michael's sphere. Initially, Willow brushed off her growing affinity for Drew as mere friendship, attributing it to the relief of having someone who truly listened. But as the months passed, that sense of ease blossomed into a deeper bond, one that was laced with undeniable attraction and emotional resonance. All the while, Willow battled an undercurrent of guilt. She knew she was crossing a boundary of marital loyalty simply by feeling this gravitational pull toward Drew. Her conscience weighed heavily on her, reminding her that she had made vows to Michael. Yet, in the quiet moments of her own introspection, she could not deny the companionship and understanding she found in Drew, a companionship that she felt was fading from her marriage with Michael. Small confessions of personal struggles to Drew transitioned into more intimate emotional disclosures, forging a sense of closeness that Willow had not shared with anyone in a long time. Though Willow tried to convince herself that her emotional entanglement with Drew was harmless, the truth was that the seeds of an affair had already been planted. Emotional closeness soon gave way to stolen touches and subtle flirtations that both Willow and Drew attempted to rationalize as fleeting, impulsive moments. However, in the heat of day-to-day interactions and under the weight of unspoken longing, lines were crossed that could not be uncrossed. Willow found herself feeling more alive in Drew's presence than she had in years with Michael, and Drew, in turn, felt a surge of protectiveness and admiration for Willow, whose vulnerability and earnest nature captured his heart. Inevitably, the emotional affair morphed into a physical one. This decisive step shattered any remaining illusions that Willow was simply going through a phase of confused emotions. The moment Willow and Drew consummated their relationship, everything changed irreversibly. The sense of guilt that Willow once nursed became a thunderous roar in her mind, reminding her of her marriage vows and the betrayal she had unleashed upon Michael. Simultaneously, the euphoria of finding someone who seemed to understand her on such an intimate level washed over her. She told herself that love was complicated, that sometimes people found themselves in unexpected circumstances. Yet, even through her rationalizations, Willow knew deep down that the more she pursued this illicit relationship with Drew, the more precarious her life would become. Eventually, the truth of Willow's betrayal emerged. The details of how it surfaced varied in different retellings, but the core fact remained: Michael discovered that Willow had been unfaithful with Drew. The revelation unleashed a torrent of emotions. Michael, who prided himself on loyalty and the sanctity of family, felt blindsided and betrayed by the person he had vowed to love and protect. The heartbreak of realizing that Willow had turned to another man left Michael grappling with a swirl of anger, sorrow, and disbelief. At the same time, a part of him acknowledged that their marriage had been strained, that they had drifted apart despite their best efforts. Even so, the abrupt manner in which everything collapsed wounded him deeply. For Willow, the downfall of her marriage was a painful inevitability once her secret came to light. Gone were the days when she could delude herself into thinking that she could maintain appearances with Michael. Rather than prolong the agony, Willow and Michael decided to end the marriage. Some might say the dissolution was amicable, or, at least, as amicable as such heartbreak could be. Others believed that bitterness lingered between them. Yet, the final outcome was unambiguous: Willow and Michael parted ways, freeing Willow to pursue her relationship with Drew out in the open without the looming specter of secrecy. In the aftermath, Willow grappled with the reactions of those around her. Some friends and acquaintances criticized her for betraying Michael, painting her as a woman who had thrown away a stable union for the allure of forbidden passion. Others insisted that sometimes love defied reason, that Willow was not inherently wrong for following her heart, especially if her marriage was already unraveling. Willow herself maintained that she was not in error for embracing the emotional fulfillment she found in Drew. She admitted to the mistake of conducting an affair behind Michael's back, but she refused to accept blame for seeking a kind of love she believed was absent from her marriage. In her view, once the relationship with Michael had hit a point of no return, the main wrongdoing lay in the deception, not in the feelings that drove her to it. The dissolution of Willow and Michael's marriage had a ripple effect on Port Charles. People began to wonder how Michael would cope with this betrayal, whether he would seek retribution, or if he would quietly move forward with his life. Yet surprisingly, Michael appeared more focused on other aspects of his life, at times even acknowledging that perhaps he and Willow were never fully compatible. Willow, meanwhile, felt she could finally breathe, relieved of the heavy secret that had hung over her for so long. Now that she and Drew were free to see each other without hiding, they found a sense of liberation that invigorated them both. Their relationship blossomed in ways that were impossible during the clandestine affair. Gone were the furtive glances and whispered conversations; they could now spend open, quality time together, sharing meals, taking small trips, planning a joint future. For Willow, it was a chance to embrace the life she believed she was destined for. However, Willow soon learned that freedom from one problem can sometimes spawn another. The next step in the Willow-Drew romance came when Drew announced his intention to move to Washington. The news gave rise to a new possibility: Willow could join Drew in Washington and start a life away from the complicated environment of Port Charles, away from the constant reminders of her past mistakes. Filled with excitement and the flush of love, Willow readily entertained the notion of relocating. She pictured a life where she and Drew built a home, perhaps got married, leaving behind the ghosts of her marriage to Michael. The idea of a new beginning in a new place appealed to Willow's sense of self-discovery. She relished the notion of forging her own path with a man she believed understood her like no one else had. At the same time, Drew himself was enamored with the idea of starting fresh alongside Willow. He envisioned a dream wedding, a home in Washington, and a sense of stability that he hadn't quite found in Port Charles. Their discussions were tinged with a romantic optimism, each whispering of the life they would build and the future they would share. They talked about how their love was different, how it sprang from adversity and overcame the stigma of an affair. They genuinely believed that love could conquer all, that the heartbreak of the past could be left behind. But fate chose this moment to unleash a complication that neither Willow nor Drew anticipated. Willow discovered she was pregnant. The initial shock overwhelmed her, but a deeper wave of panic soon followed. The reason for her panic was painfully clear. Recently, she had been intimate with both Michael and Drew, leaving her unable to say with certainty who the child's father was. The weight of this revelation threatened to crush the delicate joy she felt about her new life. Fear seized Willow's heart as she imagined the conflict that would arise if the child turned out to be Michael's. If that were the case, what would become of her new relationship with Drew? How would Michael handle the revelation that, despite the end of their marriage, he was still forever tied to Willow through a child? Faced with a challenge that could undo everything she had built, Willow sank into indecision. She considered telling Drew the truth, that she was pregnant but uncertain about who the father was, but she couldn't muster the courage. She worried that Drew might see the pregnancy as a betrayal, suspect that Willow's affections were not as genuine as she claimed, or worst of all, believe that Willow was using him as a way to escape her old life. Alternatively, telling Michael could spark an entirely different crisis, threatening to draw him back into Willow's life in ways that might scuttle her future with Drew. Torn between her conscience and her fear, Willow kept the pregnancy a secret, although she knew she couldn't keep it hidden for long. Eventually, Willow made a bold and risky decision. She chose to tell Drew that she was pregnant, and, moreover, that the baby was his. In her desperation, Willow convinced herself that this course of action would secure her future with the man she loved. She reasoned that she needed to hold on to Drew's support and affection, and that if the baby turned out to be his after all, no harm would be done. Thus, gathering her courage, Willow approached Drew and confessed that she was expecting his child. The news struck Drew with a wave of unbridled joy. He was over the moon at the prospect of fatherhood, his excitement only intensifying his desire to move to Washington and start a life with Willow. Not once did he question Willow's claim, so deep was his trust in her love and loyalty. In Drew's mind, the future could not have looked brighter. The idea of a family with Willow, the woman he had risked so much to be with, buoyed him with happiness. He immediately began making plans for a grand wedding, discussing potential timelines for the move, even picturing a nursery in their new home. As for Willow, she did her best to play along, to suppress the gnawing doubts that whispered in her mind about the baby's real paternity. She allowed herself to be swept up in Drew's enthusiasm, telling herself that perhaps everything would turn out fine, that maybe the child truly was his. After all, sometimes life had a way of aligning events beyond one's control. But secrets, especially those entangled with paternity questions, rarely remain hidden forever in Port Charles. The risk that the baby might actually be Michael's loomed over Willow like a silent storm cloud. She was painfully aware that a simple paternity test, or even the timing of her last intimacies with Michael and Drew, could reveal that her unborn child bore the Corinthos or Quartermain legacy. She began living on edge, hating the deception but fearing the consequences of coming clean. Late at night, Willow would lie awake imagining Drew's heartbreak and anger if he discovered that the baby he cherished so deeply was not truly his. She also feared the legal tangle that might ensue if Michael decided to assert his rights, turning a blissful dream into a complicated legal fight that could ruin them all. In the rumor-filled atmosphere of Port Charles, few secrets stay buried for long. It is only a matter of time before someone, be it a friend, a medical professional, or even Michael himself, becomes suspicious. Perhaps Michael notices the timing, reflecting on their final physical encounter before the marriage officially ended. Or maybe a slip of the tongue at a prenatal checkup reveals Willow's uncertain timeline. However the truth emerges, the shockwave it sends through Drew's world will be profound. If he learns that the woman he trusted so wholly, the woman for whom he upended his life's plans, carried someone else's child while passing it off as his own, the sense of betrayal could overshadow even Willow's earlier affair. The possibility of Drew shattering into heartbreak and fury is all too real, raising concerns that their relationship might unravel as quickly as it was formed. Meanwhile, one can only guess how Michael would respond to discovering that Willow bore his child in secret, even after their marriage ended. Would he see it as an opportunity to re-enter Willow's life, forging a new kind of parental bond that might upend her plans in Washington? Or would he step aside, content to let Willow chase happiness with Drew, albeit with the knowledge that the child is rightfully his? The psychological and emotional toll on Willow is immense, knowing that her missteps might destroy all that she has tried to build in the aftermath of her failed marriage. She might also come to realize that, in lying to Drew about the baby's paternity, she has repeated the pattern of deception that ended her marriage to Michael in the first place. Speculation runs rampant in Port Charles about how events will unfold once the baby's real paternity is revealed. Will Drew find it in his heart to forgive Willow, recognizing that fear and uncertainty drove her to hide the truth? Or will he see it as a second betrayal, an even greater breach of trust that cannot be mended by words or apologies? Will Willow, racked by guilt, decide to set Drew free, acknowledging that her deception was a step too far, even for someone caught in a web of complicated love affairs? And how will Michael's involvement complicate the lives of all three? These questions weigh heavily on everyone who follows the drama, with the answers promising a seismic shift in alliances, relationships, and personal destinies. For now, Willow can only cling to the hope that the baby she carries is indeed Drew's. If fortune favors her in that regard, perhaps the earthquake of truth might never need to happen. But if life in Port Charles has taught us anything, it is that secrets, especially those rooted in paternity, rarely remain undiscovered for long. Fate has a way of orchestrating events that force even the most carefully guarded truths to come to light in the most public and dramatic fashion possible. Should that day arrive, and it very well may, Willow will have to face the repercussions of her choices, grappling with the pain she has caused Drew, as well as the moral quandary of having concealed the child's origins. In the end, Willow's story stands as a testament to the complexities of love, betrayal, and second chances in the world of General Hospital. She set out seeking emotional fulfillment that she believed she had lost in her marriage to Michael. By turning to Drew, she found a passion and understanding she had not felt in years, but in doing so, she broke the bonds of trust that once held her life together. The dissolution of her marriage freed her physically to pursue Drew, but it never entirely freed her from the moral and emotional burden that comes with betrayal. Now, she stands at the precipice of a new future, theoretically brimming with promise, yet overshadowed by a secret that could dismantle that promise in an instant. Whether Willow ultimately comes to regret her decisions, or whether she finds the courage to confront her own deceptions before they do irreparable damage, remains to be seen. The unspoken question at the heart of it all is whether love can truly be built on a foundation of withheld truths and unspoken fears. The watchers in Port Charles stand at the edges of their seats, waiting to see if Willow's precarious new life in Washington with Drew will come crashing down when the child's true lineage becomes apparent. Will Drew find the resolve to keep loving Willow in the face of such betrayal? Will Michael attempt to reclaim the role of father if the child is proven to be his? And will Willow, at last, accept accountability for her decisions and the heartbreak they have caused? As of now, we can only await the next chapter in this multifaceted saga of love and duplicity in General Hospital. For Willow, the path forward is as uncertain as it is fraught with peril. Her unwavering confidence that she did nothing wrong by following her heart may soon clash violently with the reality that love can be tarnished by dishonesty, no matter how well-intentioned the deception might have felt at the time. And for viewers enthralled by the drama, the central question remains: will Willow stand firm with Drew, forging ahead under the assumption that the baby belongs to him, or will the unstoppable truth reveal itself, demanding a reckoning that could shake the entire foundation of their future? Thank you for joining me today in this exhaustive examination of the enthralling developments surrounding Willow, Michael, and Drew on ABC's General Hospital. The story reminds us that while love can inspire us to pursue our deepest desires, it can also lead to decisions that spiral beyond our control, leaving a trail of heartbreak in their wake. As secrets threaten to unravel carefully laid plans and the specter of regret looms overhead, we must remember that in the world of Port Charles, no secret remains buried forever. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to follow Willow's tumultuous journey, where love, betrayal, and the quest for truth